There is an old saying in football that tells us you have to be crazy to be a goalkeeper. Without question, goalkeepers are different. Indeed, there are many ways to classify a keeper, but there is one who's in a category all of his own. Born in Durban, South Africa, Bruce David Grobbelaar has travelled the world entertaining fans with his unique style, famous as much for his eccentricities as for his agility and excellence. He has a character as colourful as a clown, whose courage and consistency are unquestioned. He is a showman and an extrovert, and he also happens to be a genius between the posts.
Here in Britain you call it Grobbelaar because it's easier for the English pronunciation, to come around. But really it's Grobbelaar. Get the back of the throat going and roll the R's for the Dutch way of doing it. So it's Grobbelaar. And in Dutch definition, it means clumsy. Clumsy person. Grobbelaar. A juggler. Clumsy. So it was quite ironic that I became a goalkeeper. I was a naughty little kid because I'd rather play sport than do most of my schoolwork. You just had the opportunity to play sport all the time. I always elected to go and goal, always. Because if you can dive around and do these acrobatic saves and the people in Christ, he's a good little kid, which I did all the time, you see. I was a bit of a showman in those days, Yeah, my father was a football player, soccer, and he played baseball. Played a bit of cricket. Whenever I watched my father, I thought he was the best in the world, and same with my mother. I supported them as a true supporter should do. I got behind who my favourite goalkeeper was until I watched a game when they played against Malawi at the Glam Stadium, and the goalkeeper, not in the first team, in Malawi first team, but in the second team side for Malawi, had one leg, and he bounced around the goal with one leg, and I thought, well, I'll hold my hand up to that fella. He's my hero. Capambria was his name. I started off playing in school, went on, and I was messing about in my school playing ground whilst I was in high school, but we didn't have any sport on that day. It was on a Friday afternoon. I was just got some friends at high school, and we just wanted to kick around, so I went into the goal. And person Dave Russell came across, walking across, wandering over. He said, "Would you like to come and join a football team?" I said to him, "Well, no, there's no chance. My mother will never let you." So he came home, set it all up, and that's where I joined a football club. It was my debut as a professional, and my mother was dead against me joining as a professional, playing in professional ranks at the age of 15. And we lost 3-1 to Mutanga United. And my geography teacher at the high school played for Mutanga FC. And we got beat 3-1. I got the first goal put straight in between my legs by my own centre-half. Nutmegged me for the first goal. And that was my career starting on there.
Bruce's sporting excellence could have taken him in a number of directions. Having shown great promise as a cricketer and as an athlete, he was offered a baseball scholarship by the University of Massachusetts in the United States.
Then I joined a mixed team in Bulawayo in the Matabeleland area. and played with the predominantly Matabele tribe, which is Josh and Como's side. So I played for them, and we won everything. And then I was sold to Chibuku, back to Harare, the capital. I was happy until he decided to buy the black Rhodesian goalkeeper. At that stage, I was playing in goal for Rhodesia, and they'd alternate between myself and Pusani Sabanda. It was okay. I played my first team games. We won our first team games, and then all of a sudden I was dropped. So I got in my Mini, bought a little Mini there in those days, and I packed all my stuff up, and off I went, Bulawayo. I walked into my mother's shop around about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and she nearly had a heart attack. She asked me what I was doing there, and I said, well, I'm packed up my work and I don't want to play for them anymore. I told her the story, and she said, well, you're going to have to think about something, to do. I said, well, what is there? I'll have to find a job. She said, well, you're going to get called up in the army, so you might as well go and volunteer. So I said, yeah, well, let's go now. So we went that immediate time, and now at about 4:30 I went into the recruitment office, said to the sergeant in charge, I said, is there any intakes coming up? He says, oh yes, there's one in 6 weeks. I said, no, that's too much, I'll be gone by then. He says, well, there's one tomorrow. So I signed up and I joined the next day. And that was intake 147, and it was in June the 17th, 1975. We thought, oh well, nice little cushy number here, because you're not allowed to go into the bush until you're 17. And on October 6th I turned 17, and that was the end of our training, 6-8 weeks training. We went on to border control. We just get your rifles, sticks of 8, and you go and do your border control. You go up and down the border and you swap cigarettes for chocolates. They had the good chocolates, we had the good cigarettes. And Christmas Eve, they decided to mortar us. We knew then that we were in for a right hairy time. And all it was, they wanted their country back, basically. And they've got it, through a long, hard struggle.
Shankly said, didn't he, the old manager of Liverpool, he said, aye, a lot of people think that football's a matter of life and death, but it's more important than that. And I don't think Grobbelaar would go along with that at all. And Grobbelaar is a man who has experienced life and death, the imminence of his own death, and probably the death of a good many of his black guerrilla opponents. And when you come out of that kind of experience, football will, I suppose, seem to be something that is not totally serious. And it isn't. It's a game.
Bruce's national service lasted nearly 2 years, but at the end of it, his appetite for soccer was still there, and he was prepared to travel to play. What he didn't realise was how far he was going.
I decided to go down to South Africa. Went down to South Africa and played for Durban City. Played there for 18 months. I came over here and with £10 in my pocket, and I'm here now via Vancouver, because I couldn't get a work permit in England to play for West Brom because I was on a South African passport. Went to Vancouver. When I was in Vancouver, I came back to Crewe, and I could play at Crewe only if I found one of my ancestors or grandparents was born on British soil. So we looked through the archives and everything, and we found that grandfather from my mother's side was born in the Cape Town Castle, which is now Cape Town Fort. It's now the castle, and it was the British stronghold in the Boer War, because my great-great-grandfather was in the Welsh Fusiliers. They were stationed there, and that was regarded as British soil. So they gave me playing status now, and I played for Crewe 24 games.
I used to do a bit of scouting, and Bob Paisley sent me to watch a player at Portsmouth. So, having arrived, I paid me money and stood in the crowd next to two fellows with flat caps, and they were playing Crewe. Portsmouth wanted 2 points to gain promotion. And the goalkeeper in the Crewe end was having an absolute blinder. And these two old fellows, one turned to the other and said, well, we'll not get the 2 points today, because this fella in this goal is determined that he's not going to get the... However, on my return to Liverpool, reporting back to the manager, it was then Bob Paisley at the time, the player that asked me to watch, I said, well, he's not for us. But the goalkeeper might be worth having a look at, and that goalkeeper happened to be Grobbelaar.
I went back to Vancouver the second year, and that was when Bob Paisley came out and he said, had a meeting at Liverpool. They want to sign you.
Then I went with Tom Saunders, and we saw him in a game where he really showed his. So we came away and took him.
Bob Paisley was the fellow, and he recognised the outstanding talent just in a very short space of time. It was his hands, his alertness, his quickness, his ability to be in the right place, his position, the angles he took up, all of these things, you can write a book on them. But he had those things at that time. But above all, he was most anxious to succeed, and that probably was himself who made himself what he is.
We signed Bruce firstly on a recommendation from Tony Waiters. Tony had been with us as our youth development officer for a period after he finished playing. Of course, he was a very accomplished goalkeeper himself with Blackpool in England, and he recommended Bruce, who was with his club at Vancouver.
Tony was a very, very good coach, excellent coach, especially with goalkeeping. But one thing he did with goalkeepers, he made them fitter than anybody else. 2 years that I had there was the most fantastic time I've had. I would never have swapped it for the world unless it was Liverpool Football Club.
After years of globe-trotting, Bruce Grobbelaar arrived at Liverpool. It was March 1981. 4 months later, a new season began, and the club's fans were to meet their new goalkeeper for the first time.
You know, Liverpool pride themselves in getting everything just right for the start of a new season. The really hard work's already been done, of course. What they're doing now is just adding a few final touches to the preparations for tomorrow's game against Wolves. They've been changing in the summer too, and the word going around all the other First Division grounds is that manager Bob Paisley, that wily old fox, has plumped for real quality yet again. The club's record signing, Mark Lawrenson from Brighton, who can play either in defence or in midfield. Craig Johnston, the previous record signing from Middlesbrough, he's ready to start the new season. And so too, and most surprisingly I suppose, is goalkeeper Bruce Grobbelaar. Signed from Vancouver Whitecaps, he's got the toughest act of all to follow, that of Ray Clements.
Clements had been part of the Liverpool success story for 10 years. He'd also won 61 England caps and was one of the best keepers on the international scene.
I played 3 games for the reserves, got knocked out of the World Cup with Zimbabwe, so I decided to go back to my lawyer's place in Hawaii and have a relaxing time. So it was on the golf course where we were staying. I've just won the last hole, and his kids came up and ran up to him. Dad, it's a phone call from England. So fine, I let him go on. And he came back, he said, Your Honour, put down the ball, took the backswing, and as I was coming down, he says, Ray Clements has gone to Tottenham. And the ball went out of bounds. But I didn't mind. I'm well happy.
And the confidence was already there.
Do you think you've got the concentration which is necessary to play behind a Liverpool defence, something which Ray Clements was a master at?
Well, I've been put in the deep end, and I'll just have to settle down and show them that I have got the concentration. I'll have to do I'm going to have to concentrate 150% instead of the usual 90% in games.
You strike me as being a very confident sort of chap, which is obviously a good thing. Do you have any fears at all about what's ahead?
No, I don't have any fears. I've been thrown in situations before where I have to survive. So I am going to survive, I hope.
We were really stereotyped in the way we did things. We did everything by the board and we worked on everything properly. And all of a sudden we had this, as he called himself, jungle man. And he came here and he just had his own laws and he just went about things in his own way.
Ray was in charge of the first team and he was doing a good job, won a lot of trophies. But as soon as Bruce arrived, you could see, with his experience then, that you could see right away that he was a bloke that wasn't going to stand still and stay in the reserves. Unfortunately for us and him, Ray decided to move on. Now, why he moved on, we don't know, but he moved on to Tottenham and we had a good deputy and Bruce came in, and right away you knew that he was going to do a good job.
It was hard getting to know one another. We'd played at that time with Ray Clements. We understood one another. We'd played for many years We knew exactly where he'd come for the cross, and I'd know exactly when to go for the header to clear it. But all of a sudden Bruce had came, and Bruce was racing out to the edge of his box trying to catch balls and punch balls down, and he was leaving the goal open. And in all honesty, we did have problems then, vast problems.
Grobbelaar couldn't hold it.
From my point of view, they could either take me or they could leave me. They could complain and they can go and get another goalkeeper for I don't care, you know. I was there to do a job. Yes, for the first 3 months, 4 months, I didn't do it up to scratch.
Liverpool didn't make the best of starts to the 1981-82 season, and Bruce had to take much of the criticism. His antics were enjoyed, but the errors were noticed.
It's up to Brucey, you know. I mean, we feel he's come too far and he accepts this. Having said that, I think the guy was a bit lucky to score, because I thought he had mishit it and, you know, it hit the bar and it come down, and Tomo was in the line that hit off him and goes in. A bit unlucky, but I think Bruce will admit he came too far.
After the Christmas time, I lost the captaincy, so I was having as hard a time as probably Bruce was. But Bruce settled down, he learnt a little bit, and he wasn't doing as daft of things. But as I say, it's all a learning process, no matter how old you are.
Bob Paisley just let me carry on, and I'm grateful for the man, because I think he's another one of the honest managers around. And he was a nice man. A real gentleman.
There were times when Bruce considered whether or not he had done the right thing in coming to Liverpool, but Bob Paisley kept faith.
And that was a reflex header from Brian McDermott. Produced a save from Grobbelaar.
He gave me a chance. Maybe many managers at that time, when I was going through the sticky patches, would have said, well, out and put someone else in. Fair enough, you know. I hold my hand up to him. He gave me my chance, and I proved that I was good enough to do the job.
Out by Ray Kennedy.
It had been a tremendous jump up from the class of football he had been playing before joining Liverpool to the European stage on which he now found himself.
Here's Keast. And Grobbelaar can't keep it out.
The learning process continued.
He hadn't really a lot of experience in any sort of top-flight football before he joined us. Really, his rise was quite meteoric when you think he was only playing in local football, and then in football in America, where the standards weren't particularly high, to come into the English First Division and into European competition and do so well was really a tremendous credit to him.
The quality and the class was beginning to show through, and in March 1982, Bruce lined up with his Liverpool teammates at Wembley for the League Cup final. Liverpool were playing Tottenham Hotspur, and ironically, Bruce found himself entering the arena alongside Ray Clements, the new keeper against the old. A chance for Bruce to lay the ghost to rest. Steve Archibald put Spurs ahead in the first half.
Spurs in the lead, 11 minutes gone. A clumsy sort of goal, but Archibald's persistence paid off.
Amongst Bruce's teammates that day were a young Ronnie Whelan and Ian Rush, both still playing with him nearly 10 years later. But as the sides came out for the second half, it still looked as if it would be Ray Clements' day. An equaliser from Whelan in the dying minutes forced extra time. Another strike by hero of the day Whelan. And a goal from Ian Rush sealed the game for Liverpool. Clements was the first to congratulate Grobbelaar.
For about 8 years that I'd been playing, I'd had this fella Ray Clements, who I did know, and I probably knew what he had for breakfast and everything. And then all of a sudden we had Bruce there who was swinging on crossbars and things. But it's one of those learning processes, and we've all, you know, at the end of the day, Bruce's record speaks for itself. Those early days, it's the same as everybody. When I was a young boy coming into the team, people probably looking at me and saying, well, he can't do certain things, he can't do that, and he's getting in the way. But you've got to learn, you've got to do it sometime. The game needs people who sort of can bring that little bit of joviality to the game. And Bruce gave that with his handstands and everything like that.
It's a big step going for Vancouver Whitecaps to play in Liverpool's first team within a year. But he did well, and the game you're talking about, the League Cup final at Wembley, I think it was more what Ronnie Whelan did than what Bruce or anyone else did that won us a cup that day. But he would look back on that and he'd get pleasure from that, especially with Ray Clemens being at the other end.
Bruce's celebrations that day are etched in the memories of all football supporters. It wasn't long, though, before he had another reason to be head over heels, and he had another day to celebrate.
Well, we met in Hong Kong. I was working for British Airways and I was a stewardess, and I happened to be in the Dickens bar of the Excelsior Hotel, and Bruce and his motley crew all walked in. So he bought me a drink and I showed him round Hong Kong because I'd been there quite a few times.
So when she got back, I picked up the airport and I said, listen, I'm off to Zimbabwe by myself tomorrow night. I said, why don't you just get a doctor's note and come with us? She said, I can't do that. I said, go and get your doctor's note. She went and got the doctor's note, gave it to him, right, she's coming to Zimbabwe. And that's how it went. Took Debbie around Zimbabwe as well. She knew the place because she used to fly there. She had friends there. And it was one of those situations where we ended up in Nyanga, and we'd just been to the casino, and I said, well, you wouldn't marry me, would you? She said, well, you wouldn't marry me. I said, I would. I fancy getting married. I said, yeah, how were we going to get married? Yeah, she says. I said, yeah, we'll just go down the DA's office and get registered and married. She said, okay. So next day, travelled to Mutari at the time. Its old name was Umtali. And we travelled in tracksuits, but we had our clothes hanging up. I went upstairs and saw the DA. And he said, come in, sit down. He said, well, you want to get married? I said, yeah. Oh, you from Zimbabwe? I said, yes. You from Britain? Yes. Yes, very, very good. Yeah. How long have you been here? So I said, for 7 days. We've been here 7 days. Well, we've got a problem. You have to be here 14 days if you're not a resident or a citizen. So I said, well, I'm a citizen. Here's my passport. So he looked at my passport, and his reaction was, Bruce, hey, how's it, man? I used to watch you when you played here for Zimbabwe and Medibile Highlanders. I think the rules can be broken here. So that was it. We got signed up and we got married in tracksuits on the 7th of the 7th, 83.
It wasn't planned to be in a tracksuit, but it was very comfortable. And we did have a blessing later, which gave us a good opportunity to do it properly and involve my parents.
Well, Tali came around the very next year, 84. When Debbie was giving birth, we were thinking of names to give them. If it was a boy, we'd go through all the names. And I said, I fancy an African name, something different.
One of them was Bumi, which is spelt B-U-M-I, which I think would have been fairly unfortunate for a child. And then we came up with Tali from Tali, where we were married.
And little Olivia, she came about, and it was again, whether it's a boy or girl, depending on what the names are. And I wanted to use my father's name, which was Hendrik Gabriel Grobbelaar. So I phoned home and I said, listen, Mum, fancy using my father's name here. But it's a girl, we've got a girl here. So we got Olivia in there. So she said, well, why don't you change Gabriel to Gabriella? So that's what Gabriella comes in. And then Grobbelaar. I just hope that they can say Grobbelaar, not Grobbelaar.
In the early days, Bruce continued to find himself in at the deep end. He soon discovered that local derby games against Everton had a tension all of their own.
I think sometimes the way we play affects the goalkeeper. Obviously the goalkeeper makes a contribution. He's expected to make the easy save, and if it pulls off some difficult saves, it's going to be just a bonus for us.
Tussling, so too is Ratcliffe. It breaks for Lee. Now Dalglish against Ross. Trying to jockey one of those positions that he's so good at. And Souness! Courtesy of Dalglish.
He had been dubbed the Clown by Everton fans, but on this occasion, the Clown had the last laugh. With the game finally balanced at 1-1, Bruce pulled off a spectacular match-winning save from Graham Sharp, and Liverpool went on to win 3-1.
Graham Sharp. A shot out of nothing. It was entitled really to...
I think sometimes the way we play and the possession that we get and the amount of ball that we've got, it makes it difficult for a goalkeeper to concentrate. I think he's concentrated on the whole very well.
Out of the 11, goalkeeper is different because he uses his hands. He's got a whole area to use his hands in. That is his area. He commands it. He's the captain of that area. Never mind if there's another captain on the field. That is your area, and you command that area.
Well, I remember when I played for Watford against him. We actually beat them 2-1 in the game 9 years ago. But he made a great save from a header of mine. I don't really score a lot of goals with my head, but he made a tremendous save, which showed his agility then. But since playing for Liverpool, he makes them every week. You know, drops 1 or 2 clangers, but he makes up for it with the saves he makes.
Bumstead, it's a good effort. Oh. It's an outrageous save by Grobbelaar. Most goalkeepers would be happy to push that one aside. A beautiful shot from Bumstead. Grobbelaar caught it. Terrific.
That one's all right, straight. This one's been dislocated, so is that one. That one's been broken, that one's okay. That one's dislocated, that one's dislocated, and those two. That one there is a beauty, isn't it? If you get a ball hit on the end, it just pops out, and this part of the front part of your finger is on top. So you got to pull it out and back into the socket. Yeah, a lot of goalkeepers go off because they can't get them back in the socket. You just quickly grab it and go and carry on playing. Hopefully it'll be okay. Charming.
Of all the games Bruce has played for Liverpool, the most important came on a May night in Rome in 1984. The occasion was the European Cup final, and the opponents were the Italian champions, scoring through Phil Neal. And the scores remained deadlocked at 1-1 until the end of extra time.
Tremendous break now. Will Grobbelaar get there first? He has. Traps it nicely. Beats Falcao. Gets the better of Conti and finds Nicol, as only Grobbelaar could do.
Then the destination of the European Cup was to be decided in a dramatic penalty shootout.
Well, Joe Fagan came up to all the players and he said, you've done your best, you couldn't ask for no more for us, we've done well. If you win the penalty shootout, you win, and if you're not, you're still not going to think no less of us. But no, the 5 were named to take the penalties, and the Bruce is there to save them. And I think it's just like to Bruce, much like, no, you're going to do your best, there's nothing else you can do.
Inevitably swings towards Roma, scored in the second leg against Dundee. There he is, just a yard behind the ball, and very often to the goalkeeper's left. Now, Liverpool know he must do it, and he has. And they've got a quality miss. Rigetti struck firmly by Souness. wide of the keeper. No. So that brings it back.
I took a penalty myself and I was very nervous walking up to the spot. I could just imagine them going up there and Bruce is clowning round and I think he could have been there.
Liverpool the European Cup for the 4th time.
Well, I think that's where his confidence really did shine through. He was in front of a crowd of something like 75,000, majority of them Italians, all willing Roma to win. And for Bruce to be so confident and get up to the antics that he did and to put off an experienced Italian international player, a player with worldwide experience, really is a fantastic credit to him and it really does show his ability.
Well, I don't know if he put anybody off, but certainly he was in the middle of the goals. The two of them put them over the bar and we won the competition. He's got to be in the top 3 goalkeepers in Britain. I don't think you'd change him for anybody. I think he certainly would have played for England at some stage. He's that good. He's played here for 10 years and you don't mess about here. If you're not good enough, you're at the side, you're at the club. And he's held his position for 10 years, so it speaks for itself.
Bruce Grobbelaar's consistency of performance in the toughest league in the world has left no one in doubt of his ability. It is no surprise, therefore, that he regrets that he hasn't had the opportunity to play at the highest international level.
Because I'll never be used with Zimbabwe again. You know, I'm just left on the shelf. I'm going to be a Liverpool goalkeeper or another team's goalkeeper for the next 10 years, and internationally I'll never get a chance.
Whether he would have displaced Peter Shilton, really one can't say, one can only speculate, but I'm positive that he would have been in the England squad, and had he been in it, he would have been pushing Peter Shilton for that place. In fact, he would not have been satisfied to be second to him.
I would rate Bruce, he would have had a really good chance. I don't think he would have displaced Peter Shilton, but at the end of the day, he would have been in the squad and probably enjoyed World Cup successes.
But sadly, regulations have restricted Bruce to a European stage. 1 year after their triumph in Rome, Liverpool were back in the European Cup final. But this time, instead of joy, there was tragedy as the events of Heysel unfolded.
I put it in the paper I didn't really want to play again because I didn't want to be involved with the football side that caused those deaths to another side, just over a game of football. Football is it's the world game to bring countries and clubs together, and it should be a fun, not a war. Because it was the last game of the season, I could go away and reflect on what had happened. And I went to the Grand Cayman Islands, and I went to Disney World with the children, with Talia at the time. And I thought back and I thought, well, if I don't play football, then the hooligans have won.
I think it would have been very sad, but I also admire and respect the fact that he should so seriously have thought of doing so, because I think it showed, as did his charitable and generous and humane behaviour with the Liverpool supporters after the equally horrific tragedy of Hillsborough, that he is a fully developed human being.
Within minutes of that FA Cup semi-final starting, Bruce was aware that there were problems behind his goal.
The ball went over and someone came up and said, Bruce, effing hell, do something, please. And I then realized that they were going dire straits. You know, they were dire need of help. And I said to the policeman, I thought it was a man, and I said, for Christ's sake, could you open up the gate and let them out? They ignored me. And the second time the ball went, I said, for Flower's sake, open the bleeding gate, which they did. And that's 6 minutes came up and the people on the pitch. And that was when the referee stopped the game and took us off.
The following day, a memorial service was held at the Metropolitan Cathedral in Liverpool. Bruce Grobbelaar read one of the lessons.
The souls of the virtuous are in the hands of God. No torment shall ever touch them. In the eyes of the unwise, they did appear to die. Their going looked like a disaster. They're leaving us like an annihilation. But they are in peace. There were families, and they were really grieving, and they needed moral support. And the club decided that the moral support that they should get was from the players, to reassure them that they came to watch a team that they loved. And if we had turned our backs on the fans, then I don't think that we would have been held up in high esteem in their eyes. We had to do something for them, and everybody who was a part of Liverpool, the wives, families, that's what happened. We were there to comfort the grieving, and the wives did very, very well. Excellent.
As hard as it was, the game had to go on. And like all the players, Bruce just wanted to give his best to the fans.
Spurs with a few forward now, including Naeem on this side. And how will he try a blast? Might well. Tipped away beautifully there by Grobbelaar from Mini Samways.
Blocked by McMahon, volleyed by Townsend. Oh, magnificent! Both the shot and the save. Manchester City roaring forward. Oh, and Grobbelaar stops it, becoming 3-2. Wants to lay it off, Whelan. And McLaren generates some power on us. Could be a potent force. And is. Sharp.
Nobody else got the hat in the cloak.
Tell us about that.
Well, look at all the other boys, they're getting wet, I'm not. And the hat is for the hat, maybe a hat-trick of World Cup final. Winners' medals.
Michael Stevens.
Wembley Stadium has staged a number of Merseyside derby matches during the 1980s. In 1984, Liverpool beat Everton in the Milk Cup final.
You certainly get your money's worth out of him. I'm telling you, you couldn't dislike the lad to save his life because he puts every single thing in, and he's that versatile, it's incredible.
Well, let's see whether he can save now from Sharp, and he can.
But it was in the 1986 FA Cup final that Bruce pulled off one of the finest saves of his career. Not before an astonishing mix-up with teammate Jim Beglin. Jan Mulby picks up the story.
We were 1-0 down at the time, and Bruce had come for 2 or 3 crosses. He'd missed them, he'd just got a touch in, and Everton didn't manage to score, and it ended up with him and Beglin having a little bit of go at each other.
The ball had come out and had gone down the line. And I was chasing it with Jimmy Beglin, and I shouted at him to leave it. But instead of him leaving it, he put his foot on the ball, and I shot past it, so I had to scramble back to get it. Fortunately for me and him, I did. And then I grabbed him, and I just tore him. He said, Irishman, blah, blah, blah. And, we had words.
And from then on, I think it was only 2 minutes from then on, we equalised. Straight after we equalised, Bruce made a marvellous save from Graham Sharp. I think that will go down in history as one of the finest saves at Wembley, which also was a major contribution to us winning the cup.
And I was still stuck out on the left-hand side of my goal, so I had to scramble back. Fortunately for me, it was a looping header, and the ball was going up and could get back quick enough to just tip it over the bar.
From then on, there was only one way. We beat them 3-1, and I think to a certain extent it might just have tightened us up a little bit. We say, hey, listen, everyone, even the experienced player like Bruce, is finding this difficult. Let's all get together and start pulling like a team.
Derby games have, however, also given Bruce some of his lowest moments. In March 1988, Liverpool were well on course to beat Leeds United's unbeaten league run of 29 games from the start of the season, set in 1974. Ironically, the team that stood in their way was Everton, and in the 14th minute, disaster.
Was at Goodison. I think Bruce had come for the corner, and I think it was Sharpie got a near post flick on, and Wayne Clark nipped in at the back post to score. I mean, it was one of these things where they've had a fantastic run, 29 games undefeated, and we looked as if we were going to do the record. After the game, like, there was a little bit of stick flying about, but he played his part in these 29 games undefeated.
Almost any outfield player can hope to get away with a mistake. A goalkeeper occasionally can. Somebody might kick off the line, or forward might when he's missed the ball. Goalkeeper's missed his kick. But generally speaking, a goalkeeper's error is fatal. He's the last in line. And goalkeepers do tend to be idiosyncratic. And Grobbelaar, as I say, is an enigma. I think there is this strange tendency to lapses of concentration because, for example, I mean, that last season, he gave away an absolutely appalling goal at Wimbledon, and I started my report, where there's Grobbelaar, there's hope. The cross came over from the left from little Terry Gibson, and it was Grobbelaar's ball all the way, and the only man opposing him was Dennis Wise, who I suppose is about 5'6" in his socks, 5'6.5" in his boots, and somehow or another Grobbelaar let the ball slip, and the little man got the ball, and into the net it went. It was a truly bizarre goal.
Yes, that incident was a curling cross from Gibson, and it was coming round the far post. And if I had left it, it might have crept round the post, or it might have gone in. So I decided, right, I'm going to catch this, but I didn't catch it. I've just parried it, and he just headed the ball in. And again, where was the defender? I've got, to ask the question: if he was that close, where was the defender? Marking him. So, you can go on all day blaming the goalkeeper, and I'll come back with some answers.
Here's a marvellous atmosphere. Grobbelaar up to his antics already. Has come and missed it. He hasn't been as certain in his judgment off his line as he usually is. And he knows he hasn't got over. Case. Oh, and Grobbelaar and Venison in terrible trouble. It's Horn.
Well, the problem with that incident was we didn't have a brain between us at the time, so we got mixed up, not for the first time, but it was just a lack of understanding, that was all. It's things that happen regularly throughout the season. Luckily enough, it doesn't cost us anything. Well, I mean, I'll blame Bruce and he'll blame me. That's the way it is. You've got to blame somebody else.
Mark Chamberlain, O'Callaghan beyond the far post, got it back. Grobbelaar was off his line. And Bracewell play there. Lovely interchange from Marwood. Sterling driving it in. Goal from Shelton. It's down to me. There's so much for Walsh. There's turned occasionally to rather over-elaborate. Certainly, and Grobbelaar has there. Berardi, has he scored? He has!
The full story of that is, yes, I came out my area, and I tried to pass the ball to Alan Kennedy with my left peg, my left foot, tried to bend it round, and it just went straight, and Imran Berardi went, thank you very much, went round me and tried to score. I was not really into the game of football there.
I think he has this tendency to make errors. There's a certain insouciance in his game, isn't there? The fact that it is a game, that he's playing in the last analysis for fun, even if he is a dedicated professional who keeps himself superbly fit. He would never concur with Shankly that a game is more important than life and death, or remotely as important as life and death, and that possibly is, as I've suggested, at the bottom of some of the mistakes he makes, and at the bottom of that again the fact that he did have life and death experiences in the war against guerrillas in Rhodesia. His mistakes are sort of part of the legend, part of the man, part of the goalkeeper. And I think the reason that people are so astonished by his mistakes and so shocked by his mistakes is that because by and large he is such a magnificently talented keeper.
And nowhere did Bruce display his brilliance better than at Old Trafford against Manchester United during the 1989-90 season.
The boy was coming in, he could have shot, so I had to hold the near post. And then the ball came over, so I had to wait until it went over some defender's head and then move. And then wait until he hit the ball and then move again. And fortunately for me, I flung up a hand, went after it and got it with a solidity, and it just popped up and went over the bar.
Well, it's an ideal height and build, obviously. I think the greatest asset he's got is his quick reflex. For me, that's his number one strength. Obviously, he does an awful lot of other work, like coming for crosses, coming out the box, clearing his lines for us, and acting sometimes almost as a sweeper. But I think his reflexes are the things that will get him past, and that's the thing that maybe take him away from being a normal goalkeeper.
Yeah, for me, he's actually been United's best player today. At least he's stuck at the task. He's never got dispirited.
Whoa! It's an own goal! Ronnie Whelan! Well, Grobbelaar could do nothing about that. Hussein heads it away.
Sometimes, though, there really is nothing even a goalkeeper like Bruce can do.
There's an enormous amount of luck. I mean, Grobbelaar himself has made saves which instinctive saves, reflex saves. He is an instinctive rather than, if one can use the term usefully or appositely in terms of, in the context of football, rather than an intellectual goalkeeper. He's an instinctive goalkeeper, reflex goalkeeper, though he is not what some goalkeepers are slightly damned for being, simply a good goalkeeper on the line, a shot stopper. A shot stopper now is almost a term of abuse. It means a goalkeeper who will stop the shots that come in on the line, but he won't dominate his own penalty area. Grobbelaar's a lot more than that. But I think a goalkeeper will have the luck he deserves, and a goalkeeper who is as brave as Grobbelaar and as incredibly agile and gymnastic as Grobbelaar, such a superb athlete, will make his own luck eventually.
Through towards Clough. Got the better of him! Against the post! And
Bruce's courage and bravery, however, has occasionally led to injury. One of the most worrying periods of his career started in a match against Spurs. Fans wondered why, on such a warm day, he had chosen to wear tracksuit bottoms.
I had all these long trousers, Thomas and Kono type of trousers, and everybody thought, oh, there's something wrong with Bruce here for sure. Is he injured? Or must have been injured on his knees or something. But I was here. That was hard playing like that, because when I started getting the headaches, when I went up for crosses, I would take off, and it was like leaving your head on the ground. and going up for the ball, and so it hurt. And when you caught the ball and started coming down, your head was up there and you hit the ground.
He'd had flu the week before and we thought it was another case of flu. But Bruce, I mean, he can carry on through most things, but this, he just could not get his head off the pillow. So we were meant to be going out for a Sunday lunch. And a very near neighbour of ours is a GP, so I rang him up. I said, could you come and have a look at Bruce, because I'm pretty worried, because he wouldn't get out of bed, which is unlike Bruce. And he was very swift. He called the hospital and a consultant came straight out and knew straight away. I had it in my mind what I thought was wrong, but you always hope this isn't that. And he was in hospital within sort of 45 minutes.
Meningitis was diagnosed, a disease which, in its strongest form, can kill.
And that's a horrifying thing to happen to him, and you just realise there, but for the grace of God, etc., because who could be more superbly fit, a more magnificently fit and powerful athlete than Grobbelaar, and he's struck down by an appalling disease such as that.
Getting back his fitness was not easy, but Bruce has always been a supreme athlete. It's generally accepted that the great keepers of the modern game can play at the highest level until 40. But for a while, his whole career was in doubt. Liverpool's training methods did bring him back to full fitness, and eventually Mike Hooper, who had ably kept goal during Bruce's absence, had to step aside. After missing 25 games, Bruce was back in goal for Liverpool in January 1989 against Southampton and was once again in the thick of the action. It was followed by a remarkable unbeaten run, and a 6th championship medal looked certain. Certain, that is, until the last minute of the last game of the season against title contenders Arsenal.
John Barnes took the ball up into the bottom corner there, by the cop and the main stand, and all he had to do was go and stand in the corner with it. But he decided what he was going to do is cut in and try and score, and he lost the ball. The ball went back to the goalkeeper. Goalkeeper rolled it out, and there was just this long diagonal boot, and it was touched on. And to give him his due, Thomas put it away very well. How do you feel? You just lost the championship at home, you know? All we had to do is just hold them off and we'd won the championship. But we lost the championship, the same amount of points, and conceding least goals, but they scored more goals. And that was as simple as that. To hold on to a championship, you have to, carry on winning. We didn't. But in those years that I've been here, I've never been lower than second place. So, second place, that's all I know. I don't know anything else. You got to be number one if you play. You play to enjoy it, but you got to win, and especially for Liverpool and Anfield.
But the world knew Liverpool would bounce back, and 1 year later, Bruce had that elusive 6th medal. Bruce Grobbelaar's record speaks for itself. Since his debut in August 1981 to May 1990, he has achieved unequal success for a goalkeeper in the English League. To date, he has won 6 League Championship winners' medals, 2 FA Cup winners' medals, 3 League Cup winners' medals, and 1 European Cup winners' medal.
Rosenthal, that's a great turn. Schultz lost it. Gillespie has got it. That really will make the night complete. Alan Hansen, a League Championship winner for the 8th time, a fantastic record.
And even as Liverpool welcomed the return of the Championship trophy, Bruce celebrated with his young fans in his unique style.
This is a lovely touch. The goalkeeper becomes the photographer.
He is a showman. He is spectacular. He is, I suppose you would say, a brilliant outsider, because by the time he wasn't formed in English football.
Goalkeepers are different because they don't have to chase a ball around for 90 minutes and get tired. You just wait in the goal until the ball comes to you, and you're going to have to do your job when it comes into the 18 or 6-yard area. That's my philosophy on goalkeeping. Goalkeepers, they say, must be crazy. Who's crazy?
I think obviously they've got to be different, haven't they? I mean, it's... If you can imagine someone standing there, you're 18 yards out and you're blasting balls that end for 50 to 90 miles an hour at them, and you're trying to save them. I think you've got to be a little bit different.
Football fields are like a stage. You perform in front of thousands of people on the football field. In fact, with a camera, in front of millions of people. So, in fact, yes, this is a nice stage.
I remember once talking to a very famous black basketball player called Bill Russell, and he's now a well-known coach. He's then playing for the Boston Celtics, and he said he used to be sick. He'd vomit before every game, and he said, and it's a silly game, and I know it's a silly game. And you feel at bottom that possibly Bruce Grobbelaar believes the same about football.
Football is a sport, and it's been played to the best of your capabilities, and you're only as good as your last game. So if you've had a bad game last game, you can only get better. So you should have a smile on your face. If I didn't have a smile on my face, I wouldn't play the game, because you're getting paid for something that you love and you enjoy. And that is the whole thing about it. You know, you enjoy yourself.